thought I'd introduce you to this horn because I'm getting a lot of comments about it and questions about it. Yes, I've played the same Mark VI, Selmer Mark VI saxophone since I was in high school for a long, long time. It's definitely my main horn. But last year I got this beautiful mint condition SBA, Selmer Super Balanced Action horn, which I had for a little while, and I played for a little while, like last summer, and then, just ergonomically it's different, the sound's different. I put it away for a while. I wasn't sure how I felt about it, and because it's like mint condition, I wasn't sure. I mean, this thing is just minty. It's from 1952, and it's a gorgeous horn. I wasn't sure if I was going to play it or how much I was going to play it, so I put it away for a while. Anyway, recently I'm back playing it and I'm enjoying it. Definitely, like with any change of equipment, there are pros and cons, and that's what I wanted to point to. That's always my number one question is, what gear do you use, or what is it? And it doesn't really matter. What I use might not work for you. There's really only three things that matter, in my opinion, when it comes to sound and equipment and gear and all that. Number one, that you have a conception of what you want to sound like. If you don't have that in your head, something that you're aiming for, something you're striving, to sound like, then you're just kind of wandering around aimlessly. Number two, you want to have gear that works. So a horn that's not leaking, that feels good ergonomically, that works. It doesn't need to be the most amazing horn. In fact, there's a video, maybe I can link to it below this. There's a couple videos, I think, online of me at a saxophone store at Sax Quest in St. Louis, playing a bunch of different horns, a couple altos, one a very expensive brand new Buffet, and one a very inexpensive old student model Con. And I kind of like the sound I was getting on the Con. And number three, that you work with that gear consistently over a long period of time. I think people go chasing for new gear too often because they hit plateaus and they get stuck and they go, I don't like the way I'm sounding, or something doesn't feel right today. I better look for new reeds or a new mouthpiece or a new ligature, or if I only had that new horn. But any new piece of gear that you get, it's always going to be fun and interesting and novel for the first couple of minutes, hours, or days you have it. But without fail, give it 2 weeks and you'll be back to feeling like whatever it is, the new thing that you're playing 2 weeks later, you're probably going to be right back where you started. You're going to feel like you again. You're going to have the same limitations, the same, strengths and weaknesses that you had 2 weeks prior. The best thing you can possibly do for yourself is just sustained work, committed work on that instrument, diligent work on that instrument over a long period of time. Instrument, mouthpiece, whatever. It's kind of moving around to all these different things all the time. That's what's always going to bite you in the butt every time. So it's really important. Have that conception of what you want to sound like. Make sure your equipment is in good working order, and then work with that equipment until you really reach a point where it's not working anymore. And early on, I think that's more likely to happen. Like, I switched mouthpieces and reeds in the first, 5 years that I was playing seriously. And then I kind of found something that worked, and I've stuck with that for basically 20 years since. I mean, more or less. I don't pick up this SBA and play it for an hour and then play my Mark VI. I tend to commit for at least a period of time. So I've been playing this horn now for close to a month, somewhere about a month, and I haven't even brought the Mark VI out of the case since then. Because, so much of what I do when it's practice, when I'm practicing, is about trying to get really definitive things done, being very meticulous and tedious with how I practice. So when if I'm switching around horns or gears, it just becomes, it does more harm than good. And also, let me just throw in that just because you have the right gear that feels good to you, doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect for you every at bat, so to speak. Half the time or more when I'm taking the horn out of the case, depending on the day, the humidity, the reed choice, how much or little I've been practicing, all these various factors, I'm going to feel differently about the sound I'm getting. Like today, for instance, I'm not happy with the sound I'm getting on this. It doesn't feel right to me. I know that it's just today, it's just right now. In a day or two, it'll pass. That's the way I approach it anyway. What's important to me is getting to the work, doing the right things on the horn, and that over time, that yields the right result.